I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. I'm going to title this blog, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And it's been a while since I plugged my book, so hey, let's put it up here. Along for the Ride, available on Amazon and at amazon.ca. Thank you for everyone that continues to buy my book. I'm still selling upwards of 100 copies every month on this book, which is I really appreciate. Amazon lately, a lot of people commented, has been giving me a lot of promotion, a lot of advertising to help promote the book as well once you hit a certain threshold. Thank you to everyone who's bought my book and also reviewed my book on Amazon. So I'm going to brush on a bunch of topics here that I talk about in my book here. The secret to kind of success, to creating financial independence, to living off your passive income flows, because that's what this book is all about. There's not enough working hours in the day. You're not going to work and save in a savings account or a fixed income account your way to retirement. You've got to get your money working for you. And the two best ways to do that are through real estate and through buying good quality dividend paying equities. Or what I always recommend to people starting out, just buy the index. Buy the S&P 500, the Dow 30 or the TSX. Hang on to it, and then down the road, once you hit, I think, your first $250,000 in retirement income, if you want, then you can start buying some individual dividend paying stocks. So let's brush on a number of things, especially now as I speak. We're in March here. The S&P 500, the stock markets have been in turmoil here the last month. Dow's been up 1,200 points, then down 1,500. We are officially now back into a bear market. We've basically erased all the gains in the S&P 500 as I speak for the past year. We're down probably close to 12 to 15% right now. So I've had a lot of conversations with people and fellow realtors asking, am I worried? You know, are you losing any sleep? No. And if you follow me on my Twitter account, like I always do, I'm 100% transparent. I put my money where my mouth is. I've been tweeting here the last several weeks that I've been buying stock on all these dips, and I will continue to do that moving forward. I'm almost always fully invested. I'm always getting new dry powder coming in every month. I've got a pretty good sized portfolio, so I'm getting anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 a month coming in every month into my account in the form of dividends. So I'm putting that to work. I'm also, from my career and my paychecks, putting more money into my accounts as well. So I look at these dips and corrections as fantastic buying opportunities because I'm not buying speculative stocks. I'm buying good quality blue chip stocks with strong cash flows, healthy dividends, paying those dividends and increasing those dividends every year. So as I said in my book, and I've blogged about many times, I look at my stock portfolio not based on what the prices are day to day on my holdings. I look at it as what my portfolio is producing for me on a weekly, monthly, annual basis in the form of dividend checks that I get. So I use the analogy of an apartment building, a 30-unit apartment building. Each apartment has an equity or a stock. I've got Johnson & Johnson in Unit 101. I've got Coca-Cola in Unit 303. I've got Apple in Unit 505. Those holdings pay me a monthly rent check, or in this case, a quarterly rent check. And buying at some of these prices that I've been buying at the last month, I am locking in some pretty incredible yields here. 5.5% on a lot of these stocks. And keep in mind, these are all companies that continue to increase those dividends every year. So if they pay me $1,000 this year in dividends, generally I'm averaging right now close to double-digit dividend growth with these companies. So let's call it 10%. They pay me $1,000 this year, they're going to pay me $1,010 next year. Or sorry, $1,100 next year. That's the way you want to look at this. Stop focusing on price and volatility and focus on what these companies are going to produce for you, because I can guarantee this little correction we've had, and I call it a little correction, is nothing compared to what we had back in 08 and 09. I talk about it in my book, where my portfolio was basically cut in half, 50%. I never sold a stock in that time. As a matter of fact, as I said in my book, I was buying everything I could at that time and continued to buy as the market recovered. I locked in some incredible bargains. This 10 or 12% correction is nothing. This is peanuts so far. I don't know if it's going to get worse. It might. I think we're going to be in for some choppy markets here through the summer with the coronavirus and all the implications of what that's going to mean for earnings moving down. Nobody even knows at this point what the full implications of this are going to be. This is uncharted territory. But what I've been doing is, as I get more dry powder coming in every week and every month, I've got a watch list of good quality companies that I'm adding to at what I feel to be pretty good value. And if they continue to go a little lower, I'll continue to buy more as I get that dry powder to purchase. And I know that my yields and my dividend payments going forward, I'm locking in some pretty incredible returns here. Because I can guarantee everything. I've been through so many of these market corrections. I mean, just look at a couple of months ago. All we talked about was the Chinese trade. And that took the market down close to 10%, and it recovered pretty quick. We don't even talk about the Chinese trade anymore. Now it's the coronavirus. This one's going to be around for a while. But these things will pass, is what I'm telling people. I've been investing in real estate and the stock market for over 30 years, and I've been through so many of these things over the years. They always pass. And eventually this will too. And I think you'll look back on some of the prices you're getting today as pretty good value 5 and 10 years from now, not to mention those impressive dividend yields you're going to create. A few other things. As I talk about in my book, always think long term. Don't worry about this short term choppy waters, because they're always there. And again, there's another one around the corner. After the coronavirus settles, I can guarantee there will be another concern. These are endless. It's just an endless churn of worries and problems. Just stay focused. If you don't want to look at, if you're worried about what you're losing on your stocks, don't look at your portfolio and take any dry powder you have and try and buy in at good prices. You should be a buyer here, not a seller down at these levels. And remember, retirement, is a 20, 30, 40-year goal. It's not a 6-month or a 1-year goal. Just focus on the long term. You're an investor. You're not a speculator. Speculators worry about price and short term. Be an investor, because speculators, it seldom works out for them. Outside of that, as I've always pounded home to people, the things you should be concentrating on are you getting better, things that you have control over. So many people react to these things. Now, there's some people on Twitter I see that are calling for the world to end here with this coronavirus. I don't really worry about these things. I focus instead, as I've often said here, on what I have a grasp on or what I can control. And the things that I worry about here's the things that I worry about on a day-to-day basis. I wouldn't even call them worry. I don't worry about anything. Nothing. The things that are in my consciousness, though, are for sure 100% my business. What's going on with my business? Am I representing my clients? How are things going with my listings? How is my advertising? How many views am I getting? How many showings? Reporting back to my clients. Am I getting enough sleep? How is my diet? Am I eating properly? How's my training? Am I getting into the gym, working out with my trainer? How do I feel physically? Am I doing everything I can to get better in my career? Am I learning some new things every week, every month? What books am I reading? These are the things that are in my consciousness. What isn't in my consciousness, really, although I'm aware of, is interest rates. Well, they just dropped the interest rates again, so that's great. Great for me. Because I'm an investor, I have mortgages, I've got lots of investment mortgages. As I've said last month, I'm a big believer in low interest rates. Anyone who doesn't believe in low interest rates either doesn't own any real estate and doesn't have any assets. These people I see on Twitter, they're so worried about consumer debt levels and things like that and think that this is going to cause more problems for people. Well, maybe it will. But as I've often said, who cares? What are you worried about Joe Blow for? Why are you trying to save people from themselves? There's always going to be people who are going to get in over their head and make dumb decisions and buy dumb speculative stocks and lose money. But I'm not one of them. I want lower interest rates because I want to take advantage of leverage, paying less on my investment units, and generally lower interest rates help keep the equity market up because it's a TINA effect. There is no alternative. When you're earning 1% on a GIC and you can earn 5.5% on Bell Canada and take advantage of the Canadian dividend tax credit, plus get another 2 to 3% capital gain every year, you've got to be out of your mind to be investing in fixed income. Just on a side note here, I saw a recent stat on TFSAs in Canada. Only about 60% of people even own a TFSA, which is nuts. And of the people that do, almost half are holding cash in there. So this goes back to just people not knowing and maybe not caring about how to handle their money and how to make their money work for them. You should never have money in a GIC or cash outside of an emergency fund. So keep 3 months of salary for an emergency. After that, you want to be in equities in your TFSA, 100%. You want to be in the Bell Canadas, the Teluses, Royal Bank, Enbridge. Put some good US stock in there as well, because that's the only way you're going to be able to retire or get ahead of the inflation. You know, you're earning 1% on a GIC. Inflation's running at close to 3%, so you're guaranteed to lose 2% a year on a GIC. Just to keep it simple here, Bell Canada is paying 5.5% dividend, taxed at a lower rate with the dividend tax credit, and you're going to get 3%, let's say, annualized rate of return. I'm using a pretty conservative number. So now you're getting almost 9% compared to 1%, and a better tax situation on BCE. But this is stuff that should be taught in school, but they don't. Financial literacy. This is why you should pay the $9. Get my book. It'll be a good start for you, and why I wrote it. Because people are making some terrible mistakes. And this is why you're falling further and further behind in living paycheck to paycheck. You've got to change that. And that's what I try and do on my blog here with real estate and some investing ideas. Tax strategies as well. Again, I see people, they're making horrible mistakes with their TFSAs and holding money in GICs. Not very tax efficient. Again, you can learn all this stuff. It's all online for free. I tell people, it's probably going to be 100 to 200 hours to get somewhat decent enough to be able to manage your own portfolio. Ask yourself, is that 100 or 150 hours you can put in over the next 2 years worth $100,000 or $200,000 in savings? Because that's what it's going to equate to. The difference between knowing some of the basics on taxes, how the TFSA works, how the Canadian dividend tax credit works, the advantages of buying your principal residence, taking advantage of the principal residence exemption. This is all stuff that you need to learn. Otherwise, you can't blame anyone but yourself for your lack of success down the road and having to work and work after age 65 because you don't have any money. You got to get your money working for you. But the big thing I wanted to tell people in this, especially in this market right now and everything that's going on with the coronavirus and interest rates and the bond market crashing and the stock market down 10%. If you've read my book and you're invested properly in a good index fund, the S&P 500, good Canadian and US dividend stock, companies with strong cash flows and dividends, don't do anything. As Jack Bogle and Warren Buffett would say, don't touch it. Just stay the course. Use any money you do have available to buy on these dips, which is what I've been doing and what most of my colleagues and the network of investors I keep in contact with, we're all buying. Because I'm not looking to buy a stock today. If I say I pull the trigger, let's say on Johnson & Johnson, I could really care less if Johnson & Johnson goes down another 10% here. If it does, I'll probably try and buy a bit more because I'm not going to sell the Johnson & Johnson stock 6 months or a year from now. I'm holding these shares for another 15 or 20 years. And I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that Johnson & Johnson will be worth far more 10 years from now than what I'm buying it today. And I also know that Johnson & Johnson is going to pay me a fat dividend check every 3 months. And next year, just like they've done for the last 25 years, are going to give me a dividend increase. Final thing I'll just talk about quickly here too. I don't want to ramble on too much longer. But I read an interesting article in Barron's magazine a couple weekends ago talking about how big US companies are buying back hundreds of billions of dollars of their own shares. Apple is a prime one. But all these big companies from Johnson & Johnson, Proctor Gamble, AbbVie, Merck, the US banks, JP Morgan, they are all buying back billions of dollars of their own shares. And you better believe that Apple here apparently has been buying back tens of billions of dollars of their own shares on these recent pullbacks. So have a look at what these companies' floats are. And for a lot of them, the number of shares outstanding is going down, not up. And that's always the type of companies you want to be investing in. On the other hand, Tesla, which has had a huge run here, they're issuing more shares. They're diluting what they've already got outstanding. So those are little things you want to keep an eye on. I like buying companies that not only pay me a dividend, but increase it and are shrinking the share count. That doesn't always get reflected in the share price right away, but down the road, it will always pay off. So stay the course, don't panic, don't react to things. Again, I would use these opportunities to be buying good quality equities at these current prices. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.